Hello, I'm Dennis Neal at the 5th International Vatican Conference. We're here today talking with Thupten Jinpa. Thank you for being with us. First, let's talk about the Vatican Conference. A lot of other medical conferences are very narrowly focused. This one is very broad. How is that an advantage?
I think it's an advantage because sometimes when we tend to, do medical conferences primarily in a conventional way, it tends to be so medicalized and it becomes very technical, and it emphasizes too much on the actual medical practice. But this one is really actually quite interesting, partly because this is happening in the time of a pandemic. So there's a lot more reflection that goes on and introspection that goes on. And also right now, one of the major concerns in the medical profession and healthcare profession more broadly is the question of mental well-being. So I think, bringing focus on the underlying principles that really underpins all of the healthcare, approaches like compassion, empathy, caring for the person in front of you, a sense of community. I think having that more broader perspective really makes this particular Vatican conference very rich.
You are an expert in some sense in empathy and compassion. So talk about the relevance of compassion for well-being. We think of compassion as being something that we give to others, yet you argue that compassion makes us feel better, improves our health.
That's true. I mean, my background is coming primarily from the contemplative practice and the Buddhist training background. And I've had the privilege to be in conversation with scientists for a long time. And what is happening now is, one of the great wisdoms we have learned from all the major world religions is the power of compassion to underpin our moral anchor, to also motivate us. Also, there's this, all the major religious traditions agree on the idea of what it means to live a good life. And the good life, living a good life involves, having a compassionate attitude towards the world and consideration of others. But you're right. But generally, we tend to think compassion in primarily ethical, moral terms of something in the form of service, something that we do for other. But now what is happening is that we are increasingly, this is where the science is very helpful. Science is showing us actually compassion is also very good for the giver. And that makes perfect sense because we're beginning to appreciate the social, deeply social nature of who we are as a species. And the central to social reality is the relationship. And that's why when we are able to act out from our compassion, we're able to express that deeply social nature. And so no wonder that in all the great spiritual traditions, the highest ideal of being a human is expressed in the form of being compassionate, being kind, being fully present. And this is where science and spirituality really comes together beautifully. And also it is more palatable to the modern audience. When you're told to be good, because that's the responsibility, that's your moral duty, a lot of people may not be particularly open to it. But if you say, you can also be good and happy, and you would stand to gain out of it as well, then it's a win-win. And that's what makes the modern discourse on compassion so compelling.
Can compassion be cultivated inside ourselves? How do we grow more of it around the world?
Definitely. I mean, compassion there's a kind of a paradox. Compassion is clearly a natural human impulse. It's not a skill that we have to learn anew. We are born with it. But where the training helps is to make it more intentional, because normally we tend to leave it at the level of response. A situation triggers it. So we see a scene of suffering, we immediately respond. That's very natural human response. But training helps us make it more intentional, bring it to the level of our intention and attitude, and open it up so that our empathy is not confined to a small circle of people, that it's broader so that we can reach out to the world. So I think, and also one of the beautiful things about compassion is that it allows us to reconnect with others at a very fundamental human level where there's no differences at all. Because when it comes to suffering, it's universal. So I think this is where training helps to be able to broaden our scope, so that we can empathize with more people and also bring that out of, a natural part of the beautiful part of who we are. We can call it the spark, the human gift, to really live our life from there. And in the end, at the end of the day, when you look into the mirror, you feel good about yourself. And that's the beauty of compassion.
Thank you so much for being with us today. Those are great observations, Jinpa.
Thank you. Thank you for including me. Thank you.